You playing Candy Crush?
Yep.
What level are you on?
315.
What level am I on?
I don't know. Can't keep up with you.
I kind of stopped playing for a little
370
bit.
or something?
Yeah. I got bored of it.
Why is Candy Crush addicting?
It's fast.
It's mindless entertainment that you can just sit and do while you're watching TV or sports, something like that.
Yeah, it's the other thing that I could do when I'm trying to do one other thing. So I'm already trying to watch TV, which is apparently too much attention is needed for. So I need another screen in my hand that I'm doing stuff on, you know?
There's certain TV shows or I guess entertainment that you won't distract yourself during.
There's always commercials. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's true. But
I don't even see commercials anymore very much because there's very few things that I watch, except for like sports.
This is why I got chosen to be a Nielsen family.
That's right.
And paid for it and you didn't.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. They gave me the honor of participating.
Right.
And $2, and you're getting 30.
You got $2?
I got $2. Yeah.
Wow.
I think the phenomenon you're explaining, as simple and relatable as it is an interesting chemistry between two. I mean, you're multitasking. You're not doing anything in that situation that's particularly essential to your daily life, right?
I don't know, man. I've been on this level for a couple of days.
But in that situation, we would categorize...
Is it a chocolate level?
No, I don't have enough stuff.
We would categorize Candy Crush and a TV show as two forms of entertainment that you're splitting your attention between.
Right.
But I think that the right balance can help you focus on one thing particularly well. The example that I think of is when I have something to fidget with during a meeting, if it's the right amount of distraction, like a low minimum constant distraction, like a squeezy ball, or that annoying thing that I have that swishes all around that ball.
Yeah.
Having that to just kind of not really pay attention to helps me to focus on the other thing. But if I don't have something, if I don't intentionally think about distracting myself with something minimal and mindless like that, then I resort to distracting myself with my phone. And I think that my phone is not a good distractor because it's too distracting. It requires too much of my attention.
Right. You want something that's mindless that allows you in a weird way to focus on what you need to pay attention to, like in a meeting setting or if you're watching TV or something like that. The fidgety nature, that allows you to channel all of the movement or maybe attention deficit.
That's what I was going to say.
so-
I think I just have ADHD.
Yeah, maybe.
I just have an undiagnosed. But in another way, it's not. It's not like I sat down and to watch a TV show and like I'm doing a bad job at it. I can still pay attention to the TV show, right?
Yeah.
So it's actually, if anything, I'm doing like extreme multitasking because beyond the game, the TV, I'm still paying attention to what my dog's doing, what my daughter's doing, if I'm cooking something, if there's a timer going on or whatever, or something like that. And so I'd say it's like opposite of ADHD.
Well, it's
I was just going to say that my wife has a problem where if she watches a TV show, it's like tunnel vision. Like the alarm can be going off, anything like that. She won't hear it for like a minute or two.
right. Just
So.
Extreme focus,
Right.
which is
I get that too.
Different way,
with certain
right?
things.
yeah.
I leave you with those words.
Okay. Okay, so Roman just got summoned.
Confiscated.
What I was going to say is that it's you wouldn't sit down and just play Candy Crush,
Yeah.
in isolation, in the quiet, by yourself. That seems like a waste of time. But if you're doing it while you're doing something else, like watching TV or waiting for your oven timer to go off, then it's like, oh, well, I'm just killing time. I didn't seek out to play this mind-numbingly stupid game. And that makes it okay, I think.
It's interesting because I don't do this myself, although I do a variance of this. My friend was talking to me about how his Kindle, he uses it when he lives in DC, so if he's using mass transit, he uses it basically to escape from the world that he's in and make time pass.
Yeah.
So there is an element of time passing there. But Candy Crush takes a lot less investment of mind, and it doesn't take you out of the environment.
Right.
It passes time.
Although you do, when there is an exciting part of a game, or like a game is close, or it's a critical part of a show that I'm watching something, I'll put it down. I'll turn it off and say, okay, I need to focus my attention now, and give it my full attention.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you two examples of things in my DVR during TV seasons and my split attention situations that go on with them. One is Elementary, the Sherlock.
Kind
of
with Angelina Jolie's first husband.
Is that he?
Johnny Lee Miller?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was married to Angelina Jolie.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't have that encyclopedic knowledge of.
That was probably
love life.
before your time. That was when you were in high school, I think.
Yeah. I didn't recognize him from anything besides this.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I just remember the name.
But yeah, so that show, and then Two Broke Girls.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So during Elementary, I can't split focus. If I'm gonna start playing Elementary out of the DVR, I'm all in.
You put your phone down. You
phone
pay
down.
attention.
Yeah, because I cannot keep up with a Sherlock Holmes mystery.
Right. Well, that's the nature
case.
of the show, right? Is that you're gathering evidence along with the characters. You're trying to solve it before they do. So that's like the fun of it.
Yeah, and having it's a mind it's a mind intense show.
Yeah, sure.
And you watch it because you want to be mentally challenged and go along for the exhilaration of solving that puzzle.
Yeah, yeah.
Where Two Broke Girls, I could sit and read articles on my phone because that's usually what I do as a time waster is blog posts or check social media or most likely it's hang out with you guys.
Yeah.
That's just ongoing all the time.
Yeah, I feel like that's the same thing is if we want to watch something, but we also want to get other things done, we'll put on Big Bang Theory because it requires
of that.
very little thought and attention, right? It's just you hear the jokes and you're participating. It's not a thoughtful show.
Sitcoms in particular are good, I think, because the settings don't change too much.
Right.
The characters are really well defined. And so you can listen to the dialogue and make up a lot of what's going on in your head.
Yeah.
Like you can fill in the blanks.
Right.
So
and you can miss episodes without missing too much. Like you can pick up in the middle of a season of what's that show you were talking about that did the improv show? Undateable?
Yeah.
Like you don't need to watch all episodes of every season to get what's going on.
Right.
I've only seen one episode and I pretty much get it, right?
Right.
The characters are so stereotypical
Mm-hmm.
that you get.
Yeah.
The one guy is kind of like a ladies' man. One guy is kind of like an uptight guy who's in love with this other gal, and you get it.
Yeah, and that's what sitcoms thrive on,
Right.
right? Is a not necessarily deep characters, but well-defined characters.
Yeah.
And settings.
Right.
Settings are crucial,
fewer
too.
settings.
Yes, fewer
Like-
settings.
The coffee house, the apartment,
Right.
the workplace. Yeah.
Whereas Elementary is New York City and
Right.
London,
Yeah.
but mostly New York City in that particular one.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know what? I think there's room for both of those kinds of shows. Right.
Oh, definitely. I mean, obviously they're both in my DVR on a regular basis.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes you like on a Friday night after a long week, you don't want. I feel the same way about movies. I've got so many movies, physical copies of movies that I've been meaning to see, but I'm never like the times that I have to watch movies, a Friday night, a Saturday night. At the end of a long week, I want something that isn't very thought intensive,
Yeah.
and I want a dumb comedy, or I want just a bunch of episodes of a show I've already seen several
That's
times.
so interesting that you mentioned that, because we tend to watch Elementary and NCIS and other
Those kinds
things.
of participatory shows.
We watch those on Saturday and Sunday mornings a lot.
Uh-huh.
We'll get breakfast, we'll sit down
Yeah.
and watch a show,
Right.
And it's a good way to kind of get your mind going for the day,
Yeah.
and you don't have a lot of mental fatigue
Right.
from the day at that point.
Right.
So it's more enjoyable.
You've
for
already
us
had a break,
at those times.
a little bit of a break from Friday.
Yeah, and there's a lot of times on weeknights, or like you said, Friday nights, when you have a little bit more time, because you could probably stay up a little
Yeah.
later after you get the kids to bed and stuff like that, right? A little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah.
You time. Though you want to unwind, and you want to turn your brain off.
Right. Right.
So that makes a lot of sense, and it fits with our patterns too.
Yeah.
It's easier for me to find movies that I want to watch on Netflix than it is to pick up a new series. I don't know why that is, but
You would rather watch something on Netflix than to watch something new on cable? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. I'm deconstructing in my mind the difference between cable and Netflix. Like, cable does such a great, not necessarily cable, but shows get advertised like crazy on the networks and on cable networks.
Yeah.
And it gets in your mind that, hey, I want to watch this. The older stuff is harder to discover. Like, I got into Freaks and Geeks and Undeclared
Yeah.
because you personally recommended them,
Right.
because you enjoyed them.
Sure.
And so I got into those and started digesting those. And I get recommendations in Netflix every once in a while. Like, we started watching this My Boys
Oh, the
series.
TNT or the TBS show.
Yeah, with Jordana Spiro or whatever her name is.
Yeah, I've seen commercials for it. I've never actually seen it. Isn't Jim Gaffigan in that?
Yes.
Yeah,
and he's
okay.
hilarious
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah.
But it wrapped up like in the late 2000s.
I think so, yeah.
It's kind of interesting seeing people with flip phones. And
Oh, yeah. It's true.
because it's like the not too distant past, so it doesn't seem like incredibly outdated. But every once in a while, when you see those little subtleties, it's like, oh yeah, in 2006, I wasn't on social media.
Right.
Oh, I gotta go home because I gotta see if such and such emailed me.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right? And it's
Yeah.
like, well, why don't you just check your phone?
Right.
Right? Because email and text, they're almost ubiquitous at
Well,
this
why
point.
would you read an entire email on a screen that only allows 3 lines?
Right.
Right?
Or pay the kind of data that
Yeah.
plans had at that
That
point.
it probably did. Yeah, it's 2005 doesn't seem like a long time ago.
No.
But it was 10 years ago.
But it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, and that's kind of mind-blowing because I still kind of think of the 90s as being last decade.
Yeah.
And I completely forget about the 00s. It's, yeah, I don't... It was kind of a garbage decade, let's be real.
It was fun for me because it was my college
That's
years.
true. That's
so for me, it was a good decade. But I understand culturally not a lot of significance in the 2000s.
Yeah.
I mean, the music that I like to listen to is from the 90s.
Yeah, me too.
And then as I've gotten older, gotten more into classic rock and stuff from decades prior, right?
Yeah.
But not... It takes a while for a decade to get compressed down. I mean, it was the last decade.
Right.
Right?
So it's hard to be nostalgic for something that you barely realize has passed.
Right. And I think sometimes subtle differences, like... This might be a leap here. I'm going to try to navigate it. The difference between how we lived in the 2000s versus how we live now is subtle. But there are huge things but you just don't realize it. Like the way that we use the phone thing is a perfect example. Yeah. Phones were around then. Smartphones were born in the 2000s. The advancement of how we use this device now compared to then is quite significant. But it doesn't seem as significant between how we used phones in the 80s versus how we use phones now.
Right.
There's just subtle differences, and we can't really... it actually probably drives us... We're less accepting of that. Like, it seems it's boring. Like, the difference between it's boring to look at it. And I actually would look back on a rotary phone as being nostalgic and kind of cool now. Like, that phones used to look like that and used to have to be tied to the wall and everything like that. Then looking at a flip phone, if I found that in my drawer that I had swapped out, 7-8 phones ago, I'd be like, oh, look at this dinosaur. It's a piece of garbage, right?
Well, think about how many years there were telephones, landlines specifically, and they didn't change that much over the course of 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
They were still tethered to the wall. They were still, pretty bulky. And then if you look at the past 10, 15 years, they've changed so much. From a giant cell phone that you carry with you, like Zach Morris, and then down to like the very, very tiny ones and the flip phones to the smartphones.
Yeah. And
now they're getting bigger again and stuff like that. But in the past little bit, they've changed a lot.
Yeah.
And so there hasn't been enough time. You never spend much time with any one of them to be nostalgic for it. Where you had a rotary phone or a phone like that in your house, you probably grew up with it the whole time.
Yeah.
So there's more like nostalgia there.
The kinks in a curled cable.
Right.
Right. Roman's back.
Roman is back.
I'm now on level 318.
So you passed that one difficult one.
Actually, I
so obviously
passed 3 of them.
You passed 3 while helping someone else, so you were multitasking.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Yep. So what are you guys talking about?
We were talking about
rotary phones.
First we talked about how.
Why do I feel like you're intentionally making your voice sexy?
I think it's the way I'm sitting. I think
lower to the ground than usual.
No, I'm still really full from lunch. I'm hunched over, and maybe that makes my voice deeper.
I had salad for lunch, so
did
I'm
he.
not full anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he had brisket.
I had brisket on my salad, and I dumped a whole bunch of barbecue sauce on it too. I was sick over the weekend too.
And he's a little guy.
There is that,
I'm hunched over,
ladies and
like a
gentlemen.
hobbit, so that I've never seen.
But that's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Excellent.
you're talking.
I'm just talking about how, like, sometimes you can't appreciate the subtle differences, and especially when things evolve so quickly that you can't really get nostalgic about it. Like, a rotary phone is
Right.
nostalgic to me, whereas my flip phone from when I was in high school is just a piece of garbage.
So, there's actually something for that. And I think the flip phone is probably one of the most nostalgic cell phones that you're going to get. Now, I'm not talking car phones, the briefcases, or any of that kind of stuff.
Right.
But like the Motorola, not the Razr, but the precursor to it, whatever the hell, with the battery on the outside that clipped on the outside of that. I don't know if you ever had one of those. Brandon, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah,
The ones that had like the single line display on the outside, and then
Yeah.
inside you flipped it and it had like 2-line display. So the precursor to the Motorola Razr.
Yeah.
I think that is probably one of the most nostalgic cell phones that you can get. Now, lately though, there's been a really interesting push in Japan. So their flip phones are known as Keitai, and they were kind of like the precursor to smartphones. They weren't necessarily used for what we use smartphones. So let's say a smartphone now is like an extension of your computer, or even like a replacement of your computer.
Yeah.
Their phones, they just had a lot more functionality. A really good example, when I was over there, we went to a sumo match. So imagine like a boxing kind of venue, but it's a sumo match going on. And we're kind of high up in the rafters, and this group of businessmen come over, and they sit down in front of us, and this guy whips out his Keitai, or his flip phone, flips it open, and it's got a nice, good-sized screen on it, and then takes out an antenna from the body of the cell phone and starts watching the match on TV. So,
Oh, wow.
so not
the match that he was
at. Yeah, it's like for closer coverage. So,
Right.
and it was not like a web browser that he was using to browse to the live feed of it or anything like that. Straight up over the air, straight to your phone.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the kind of things that they would do with K-Ties. Beyond like being really popular to run games because they're a little bit more powerful. Now, so lately they've been really getting into the iPhones and all this kind of stuff, kind of like we've had. But there's now kind of a movement to go back to those K-Ties. So it's almost kind of nostalgic to them that was the phone. Like that was the definition of not a cell phone, because that's different, but of this K-Tie thing. So it's almost like, I don't know, people who like Converse in a way. You just always go to Converse, and then you might get the new ones, and you might say, I like the original Converse. I don't want the Air Jordans. I just want the simple Converse kind of thing.
I dig Converse.
Yeah.
I wear Converse.
So are they going back to the old versions of those things, or newer updated versions of those?
It's more about
brands?
bringing back the style, bringing back the flip phone. I believe some people will actually seek out the older phones that can still work, but it's more about bringing back the feeling of having one of those phones. I honestly think that we're getting way too out of hand with all the stuff that we want to do. There was a push for making the smallest cell phone. Like in Zoolander, he's got like a half-inch phone, and he's like talking to it. Because back then, technology was getting smaller, and the only thing we really wanted to do with the phone is call someone or get a call back, right?
Yeah.
Well, now we moved beyond that. It's almost like we don't really even talk to anybody on the phone version anymore, right? It's Skype on your smartphone, or Google Hangouts, or any of that kind of stuff. And the other day I was walking the dog, and I have my Android watch with me, and I have the phone, and I was thinking, man,
How do you use your yo-yo when you do that then?
well, I don't walk my dog with my yo-yo. I walk my dog by himself because he's a real dog. Because now I understand what you were talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, so I looked at my watch and I thought, man, really, if all I had was just an earpiece on this watch, where I can just have a call and then maybe get a text message or just simple notifications of things, I'd probably go with that. I don't think I would need a smartphone and I would find my tablets, like my iPad, way more useful at that point, because as soon as I get my phablet, my Note 3, old school already, I stopped using any of my tablets.
Right.
There's almost
You
no
don't need
point,
both.
right?
Yeah.
But the fact that we do have it on us all the time, and it is kind of a phone, and we do use it for that, I feel like we can improve on the tablet part of it. And the phone, maybe just kind of leave it alone. I don't know. Like, I think there's going to be somewhat of a disconnect.
See, for me, I appreciate not having to have two devices. Because I did the phone plus tablet thing for a while.
Yeah.
And I wanted to carry my 7-inch tablet around with me.
Yeah, I remember you doing that.
And I did that, and it was effective for me. But I think the big hindrance was not so much getting phone calls on the tablet, but getting text messages to the tablet. If I could, people, no matter what, our technology use isn't just hinging on what we personally want to use. It's what everyone else is using as well.
Mm.
So for communication with you guys, I don't need to have a phone.
Right.
Because a lot of our communications are web-based, and they extend to any device that I have,
Right.
which is awesome. That's what I would prefer people do. But you can't. I find it very difficult to dictate to other people in my lives to say, stop using text messaging. It's
Right.
lame. Use something that's going to be cross-device.
You know what's funny is like when like on days that you've been on vacation or something and we need to get a hold of you, like I'll think nothing of sending you a hangout message,
Because you're like,
at
he
any time.
should get it.
He can get to it when he wants to,
Yeah.
and I don't want to disturb him, and it's there. And then like it came to a point where I was gonna text you, and I was like, ugh, I don't want to do that. Like it's like off. It felt like I was overstepping bounds to do so.
And
right?
there's absolutely no difference.
Right. But there's like a conceptual difference between
Yes.
like you just don't text people unless you are like family. I don't know. Like for me, I only text my wife, my parents, my sisters, a couple of friends, but everyone else is probably just.
I moved my wife.
messaging.
I moved my wife to Hangouts.
There was a couple
Yeah.
times when we were, I think it was probably when we went to TAPS 25 to celebrate a colleague leaving.
Yeah.
And you were texting me to coordinate where it was at because I didn't
Right.
know where it was at. And I think you used it because you felt it was more appropriate because it was...
It was super timely, and because I was driving and you were driving, and I used the voice to
Right.
text to just say, tell Jeff it's 5 miles down this way or whatever, and I could do that without taking my eyes off the road.
Yeah.
Why couldn't Jeff just use Google Maps on his phone?
Well, that's another story, I guess.
Because I was following him and I got cut off.
Yeah, like there was like I made a red light and
Yeah.
he didn't or something.
See, that's also a skill. Letting people follow you in the car, I believe, is a skill that needs to be taught to people. Or maybe not anymore because everybody's got GPS on their phone.
Right.
But man, you're trying to follow somebody and they go through a yellow light.
Yeah.
Come on.
Sometimes you don't think about it. It's just so natural that.
Well, you should think about it. That's part of it.
At times I do, and then I'll like pull over
Right.
if I can.
I'll just
so
stop
they
in the
can
middle
catch
of
up.
traffic.
Or go super
because
slow.
someone's behind me.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, work consultation engagements.
Yeah.
We use Hangouts a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of been a medium that's kind of been forced on them by the sense, like we're using Google Documents and stuff. So I just send them a quick Hangout to see if they just get it.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, the way you're just going to interact with a Hangout now is if you have your Gmail open or you're in some Google product
Right.
where it just comes up.
Sure.
So this woman that I'm working with responds intermittently to Hangouts because that's how she interacts with it.
Right.
So it's basically like I'm sending her an email, but it's not as good because it's not going to come up on her phone.
Right.
It's only going to come up if she looks at the web-based version of it.
Right. You know what I think spoiled us, at least most people, is iMessage.
Yeah.
And the fact that it showed you.
Never used it.
Well, so a little thing came up, a little check mark came up showing you that the other person read the message.
Yes.
And that's what made us into the very impatient people. It's almost like the switch. That's what allowed the switch or prompted the switch from text messaging to these chat clients.
It's something that gave you those affordances.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know, did you get my message, or should I send it again, or is there something wrong?
Those can be dangerous, though.
It is. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's the same because people will just sit there and say, she read the message. Why hasn't she replied?
I saw that there was little dots, though they started to say something.
Yeah.
The little dots aren't as bad because then you can stop saying something and it's like, oh, they're not going to say anything. Or you completely miss it, right? Like if you just get out of the chat client. But Facebook has the sent, seen.
Yeah, which you can turn that off on anything, but why do we want to know? I mean, yeah, somebody could say, well, I never saw it.
My previous job, our email was through a Novell client.
Mm-hmm.
And when you looked at your sent mail to someone inside your organization, it would show whether they opened it or not. And one time, I guess I opened up an email and deleted it and lost it, and I needed to refer to it again. And I called this woman and said, hey, I either never got or misplaced an email from you. Would you mind sending that information along to me again? And she, on the phone with me, said, well, it said that you opened it up on whenever. Just so that she could basically say, dude, you're the one that messed up.
Right.
Like, she used it just to be a jerk.
Yeah.
Right? Or not necessarily to be a jerk, but people...
Well, it's no blame to her, right?
People instinctively want to...
Be in the right.
With everything.
Or actually better, not be in the wrong.
Right, yeah, that's more appropriate way of saying it. But like something so insignificant like that, like just send it again. I even left it open that it wasn't your fault.
Well, and the thing is, people don't really understand is it's technology. We rely way too much on something, and it's the same thing that is with everything else. It's not 100%. So just because it said that it opened it, really doesn't mean that you actually opened it. It means that your software says that it got opened. Does that mean that Jeff actually sat in front of his computer and clicked open this email? Not necessarily. Somebody else could have done it. I mean, so there's a lot of things to it, but it's almost like we're evolving because of the technology. We are becoming way less patient, a lot more worried, and really in an effort to become more social, we're becoming more antisocial.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
You're ignoring the people around you to chat with the people on your phone.
Yes, Brandon, who's coming off a message that he was just writing.
Well, you guys are on that thread, so I figure it's not too
Anytime
offsides.
you go into a Pancheros and get in line and see how many people are on their phone. Go to checkout at Meijer.
Yeah.
And see how many people are leaning on their carts as they wait to check out, or are stopped in the middle of an aisle and responding to someone.
Man, you know what? If I'm already on my phone and I'm in checkout and I have my cart in front of me, why is there not some sort of app that just RFID scans my cart with my phone and just checks me out?
I don't know.
Can you imagine how much better that would be? I was at a conveyor belt sushi restaurant. For those who don't know, it's basically a sushi restaurant that you sit around the bar. There's a conveyor belt that drives little plates of sushi around you, and you just pick one up that you want to eat. Now they have different prices usually based on the color-coded plates. Mm-hmm. Blue is $1, gold is $5, whatever. The one that I was at was a bit high tech, where each plate actually had a built-in RFID chip. And instead of counting them up, one by one, when you were done, you just bring up your stack to the cashier, they scan the whole thing, goes boop, and then that's how much it costs, right? There's no way of cheating it, no way of whatever, because...
Well, if you put your plate on someone else's plate.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. That would have cheated any system. That's like, if you just want to throw your plate out, Brandon, yeah, they're not going to charge you for it.
Well, I mean, like, so you have the gatekeeper is the waitress, right?
There is no waitress.
No, I mean, like, in a normal
How much
situation.
per item would... Because I'm not as familiar with RFID chips, but
Right.
I get the concept. How much is a single chip that you would attach to an item?
Nowadays, they're fairly cheap. I mean, you
So
could
it'd be
probably...
similar to putting a sticker on there?
It's almost exactly as those security tags that you find on clothes, those stickers or whatever. Basically the same concept. The chips, they don't have to be powered or anything like that. It's the reader that does all that kind of stuff. Now, it's reusable. Unlike those security tags, when somebody takes that thing out, it's out, right? So, but maybe it's worth doing the same thing. If we're going to put security tags, if we're going to put barcodes on things, spend 10 more cents, right?
Yeah.
Would 10 more cents on each one of my products be worth me just literally walking through checkout, having it connected to whatever Google Pay, wallet, Apple, whatever account, right? And then it just goes, bing, on your phone. Is this amount look correct? You're like, sure. Keep walking.
Well, for the amount of time that they screw up, then...
This is why I like the self-checkout, actually.
Yeah, I do too.
But I always hate being the guy behind the guy at the self-checkout.
Oh, yeah.
Because, especially the ones where there's
They're
no
never
limit.
fast enough, yeah.
Yeah, there's no limit, and they do this thing where you can, at the bagging area, you can put a little separator so that I can start checking out with that person's bagging their stuff. It is just not...
And the person always forgets to put theirs up.
Right, and then they
so
give you
gotta
that
walk down
right.
to the end and push their stuff out of the way and put the tailgate up and then start checking out. And then you run out of space, so you have to go back down and open up the tailgate once they're gone so that all your stuff goes down. And then I'm the considerate one to put it up for the next person that comes through the line.
Sounds like grocery shopping is such a pain for you.
Well, it's not the shopping part.
The shopping part's actually fun because I was actually thinking
it's the people.
It'd be really easy to, and they have these things for elderly people and disabled people where you can call ahead or order ahead, and they'll have curbside service where your stuff's already bagged up and you take it with you. And I was thinking to myself, that'd be easy if it was just a warehouse and you kind of like the GVSU library where it just finds a book and puts it in, brings it to you. But then I thought, no, shopping in a grocery store is entertainment. It's enjoyable in a lot of senses for some people. Some people hate it.
Wait until you have kids.
Some people hate it. But, okay, when you go to the store without your kids, do you enjoy browsing around and looking at things?
Not really. Not at the grocery store.
Well, no, see, there's the thing, though. I always said that there's a difference between shopping and buying. Because there's times when I'll walk into something like, let's say, one of those Walmart centers that has groceries in there too. If my mission is milk, I go in and I'm out in like 1 minute. I just got milk. But if I go shopping and I have a list of milk, bread, paper towel, whatever, I also pick up like 5 other things that are on the end caps because, that's what we're there for.
You walk by them.
Yeah, who doesn't need 5 pounds of gummy bears that happen to be on sale because they're expiring tomorrow, right? So
you got to eat all of them in a night.
Not going to happen, but I bought
Oh, I've done that. I've eaten this too.
Yeah, so I always thought, I like the shopping experience. I like looking at stuff and picking it out. And I almost thought when you were saying this that, it'd be cool actually if I could go online, select the things I want, and then just... Well, they already do this where they deliver groceries to people. Like, you can actually buy things like that. But just go to a pickup window and then get your stuff, right?
Yeah.
But that would be so not profitable for these big box stores because they want you there to shop. They don't want you there to buy. They want you there with the purpose
you're less
of...
impulsive?
If I have like a mission...
So,
or if I'm online.
The alternative would be being online, right? Because there's times where I'm getting something on Amazon. I never really just browse Amazon and impulse buy stuff
You
just
go
on
there
a whim.
because you are looking for something specific.
Right. There are cases where I've just browsed Amazon just because and been like, oh, I need one of those and bought it. But those are far and few between compared to the ones where I scout something out for a while, I want to buy it. Sometimes I put it in my wish list and wait for Amazon to notify me that the price has gone down on that item. And then or up. and then make a purchasing decision there. But a lot of times when I'm getting ready to buy those things, I'm like, oh, because I don't have Prime. Oh, let's get something else to take advantage of the free shipping I already have because I've reached a certain price point.
Right.
Like, let's throw some more fuel on the fire.
Well, for Amazon, those end cap items are what they now do with the add-ons. You know, certain things that are like $2 that you can only buy if you're buying something else.
I would totally on my Meijer app, right? Milk, ground beef, salad. Pizza rolls, let's throw some pizza rolls in there.
But you know, it all depends on how that information is presented to you. Because if you walk through a store, you visually get that data. If you're on the app, if you just hit up those 3 areas, and in none of those areas pizza rolls showed up because you didn't go to the frozen foods aisle area on your app, you probably would not have seen it.
But it could be. It would require a login, so it would have past buying history.
We noticed that you buy pizza rolls every time you log in.
Do you need pizza rolls again?
Yeah.
Or do you need Prilosec?
Well, and there's apps that...
Check your cart.
There's apps that you can get that for your food inventory.
Yeah.
So they would be smart to include that within the design of the app.
Yeah.
So it would notify you, like, you haven't bought milk in a week.
Right.
And send you a push notification and say, buy more milk.
Yeah. So I think what Amazon doesn't do right to promote impulse buying is, and I mean, let's get it out there. I'm an impulse buyer when it comes to online stuff. Most of the time because I find a good deal on something that I didn't know I needed.
Yeah.
But the way that I reach Amazon is through third-party services, such as, you know, like Slick Deals for just finding deals on there. Most of the time, I don't specifically look for anything. I go there and say, oh, $5 for 900 AA batteries on Amazon? That's awesome.
That's a great deal.
It's a really good deal.
Yeah. So that gets me to Amazon. I don't need AA batteries, but who doesn't want 900 batteries for $5? Right. Disclaimer, this is not an actual deal. Don't go looking for it.
I use so few batteries like that.
Oh, jeez.
Mine are all...
Have a good weekend.
Bye. Mine are all rechargeable that I use now. So
you've got kids, though.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I never used to buy D batteries and C batteries until we started buying kids' toys.
D batteries are only for kids' toys. I'm convinced.
It's
literally like a double A battery inside there, probably.
It's
like
just two
cardboard and like a paper tube
stuck inside,
recycled from toilet paper rolls,
right?
With a sticker that says like "Energize us."
It's a conspiracy to get money from parents.
It is.
Right. Oh, yeah. There are a lot of them. Like, every year, the standards for child seats in a car change.
Yeah.
So you've got to keep getting new ones and new ones and new ones. They're just probably sitting there saying, hey,
you're supposed to get new ones.
No, here's the thing. Here's the thing, and you know, we could get a lot of slack for this, but so my cousin just had their 3rd baby. Their last baby was 5 years ago, so there's a 5-year difference. He looked at his car seat, and it said that it expired. It actually has an expiration date on the car seat. So he was looking into it, and, you know, the thing is, they say the material inside it becomes not as, I don't know, dense or whatever it is, right? Well, do we not have other materials to build this out of? No, the thing is that they want to scare you into buying a new one.
It also has to do with lawsuits and stuff too.
Well, yeah, and that's why they do. That's why you have gigantic labels on things now that say, "Hey, this is fire retardant or not, or this may cause brain damage." And
hockey helmets have expiration dates on them.
It's probably the same material in there too.
Yeah, and then this study came out. I forget what university did it, but this study came out from the same people that led a research on concussion study in the NFL or in football. They evaluated these hockey helmets, and it turns out that there's only one hockey helmet on the market right now that's currently being sold that's even adequate. It's not really great at concussion prevention. It's merely adequate. Wow. The rest of them are not good.
Are woefully under...
Right.
Yeah, I think they were doing the same studies now in football, too.
Yeah. They actually did it in football, for football helmets prior, and that's why you started seeing all these new helmet designs, the ones that look like they've got like so much space on top of their head.
Right.
They came out because this informed the marketplace. Customers started to demand better football helmets, and therefore the manufacturers had to adjust and use these studies to inform their designs for their products. The same thing's happening with hockey helmets right now on all of the hockey retailer websites. They had a thing that said, in a recent study, the Crown 360 was from Warrior was said to be the most protective hockey helmet. It's not. It's a relatively low price point for that helmet too. It wasn't a tremendously popular one because everyone equates helmet price to protection level in that sport.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if I buy the $150 helmet versus the $70 helmet, my head's going to be more protected.
Twice as protected.
Well, and they market it that way.
I will get half the brain damage.
The reason why it costs so much is because they got this bladder system in blah blah blah.
So the helmet pees on you.
But protection becomes a marketing point, and it's crazy that manufacturers they have nothing backing up the protection level of it. They just say our engineers have specifically designed these helmets to prevent against concussions, and then a study comes out that says no, that's bull.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's irresponsible marketing.
Yeah. Well, the thing though for car seats, I think it's probably half and half. Like Brandon was saying, there are new technologies and new studies every year about impacts and things, and what just recently now they said that your kid should be rear facing until she's like 15 or some crap like that. But you gotta think about it. Look at like the 70s and whatever, and I'm not even going to pretend to know what the numbers of child mortalities were that were not in car seats or buckled up or whatever to what it is now. I think yes, safety is a big concern, and I think it's something that we should take seriously. But how much of that is still a scare tactic? To get us to get to the consumer.
I think you're right. It's a little bit of both, right? It's opportunity to make more money, but also like based on a little bit of a concern.
Right. It really reminds me of, and I'm a big fan of these all these prepper shows.
Yeah.
Prepping Nation, American Preppers, whatever, that kind of stuff. Because they started out with kind of like, hey, you should really prepare for if there is really bad weather, you're out of power, that kind of stuff. So yeah, go get a 24 pack of water. Maybe you have it just in case, whatever. Go get your blankets, your wind up radio or something like that. But then it starts to get crazy if you start looking into it, and the shows progress into some really crazy people from prepper furniture, with hidden compartments and all that kind of stuff. Because watch out, the man's gonna come and they already know where all your guns can be. So now you need new furniture with these hideaway things, to different types of locks and all this kind of stuff. And I mean, the average person is not a lockpicker, or they're gonna have to try to get at something. And it's something to be said about the fact that if somebody wants to get at it, they will find a way to get at it. There's why that even all those safes that you buy for your house, unless you're buying cemented into the floor, only opens with your blood or something like that on the third Monday of a full moon kind of thing safe. If they want to get into it, they'll get into it. So you start out from common sense to, well, let's scare them now because we want them to buy more of our stuff.
Right.
Don't buy the cheap $5 knife. I know we told you you need a knife. But the cheap $5 knife, that will fold and it will cut your fingertips off. You need the
Right.
$25 knife. Don't buy the $25 knife. It's not going to be sharp enough. You need a Damascus steel knife, $35.99 or 2 for $50. You know, and you can get them at Mr. Allen's.
That's right.
So
Always comes back to knives with you.
yeah, scare tactics.
Scare tactic. I think we're the last people in the building, so we might need to leave.
Go Team USA.
Go USA, USA, USA. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, this probably will not be published by Sunday.
Been
Anyways,
before the soccer game, but U.S. women's national team.
we're with you. I'm gonna predict right now a 1-1 at 90 minutes, and then 2-1 USA at 92 minutes.
In 2 minutes of stoppage play.
Right.
Sounds good.
And,
All right.
should be a good match.
All right. Well, we'll see how it goes.
Happy 4th.
See ya.